I was scraping burnt toast into the sink when I heard the front door close. Sarah was leaving for work, same as every morning. I didn't call out goodbye. I just listened to her footsteps fade down the walkway. The toast was a lost cause, so I tossed it in the bin and poured another coffee. The silence in the house felt heavier than usual. It wasn't you're sad, just there, like a third person sitting at a kitchen table. I rinsed the plate and left it in the sink. Sarah used to hate that, leaving dishes for later. She'd say it was a sign of giving up. I wondered if she even noticed anymore. I looked at the calendar on the fridge. Our anniversary was 3 weeks away. I couldn't remember who circled it. Maybe it was me, hoping to remind us both. Work was a blur of emails and meetings. I thought about texting Sarah around lunch, just a "how's your day?" But I didn't. I couldn't think of what to say that wouldn't feel like a chore for both of us. Last time I asked, she replied with a single word. Fine. That was a week ago. I spent the afternoon staring at spreadsheets, numbers swimming on the screen. My boss asked if everything was okay. I nodded and said I was just tired. On the drive home, I passed the park where we used to walk on Sundays. The benches were empty now, the trees starting to turn. I thought about stopping, but I didn't. When I got home, her car was in the driveway. The lights were off except for the blue glow of the TV from the living room. She was on the couch, shoes off, feet tucked under her. Some reality show was on, but she wasn't watching it. She was just staring at the screen. Hey. Hanging my coat. Hey, she said back without looking away. I went to the kitchen and started pulling things out for dinner. Pasta maybe. Something easy. Pasta, I called out. Sure, came the reply. I boiled the water, chopped a tomato. The routines were comforting, even if they felt empty. I remembered when we used to cook together, bumping into each other, laughing. Now we took turns, or one of us just made enough for two. I found a jar of sauce in the cupboard, expired last month. I opened it and smelled it. It seemed fine. I poured it into a pan. The steam from pot fogged up the window. Outside, the neighbors were playing. Their shouts sounded distant. We ate at the coffee table in front of the TV. We didn't talk about the show. We didn't talk about anything. The clink of forks on plates was the only conversation. I wanted to ask her what she was thinking, but I was afraid of the answer. Or worse, that she'd say nothing. I glanced at her profile in the flickering light. She looked tired. There was a new line between her eyebrows that hadn't been there a year ago. She pushed her food around the plate but didn't eat much. I ate without tasting anything. After dinner, she took the plates to the sink. I stayed on the couch. I heard the water run, the clatter of dishes being loaded. Then she walked past me, her hand brushed of the sofa, close enough that I could have reached out and touched it. I'm going to bed early, she said. Tired, I said. Night. She paused in the doorway. For a second I thought she might turn around. She didn't. I listened to her climb the stairs, the soft click of the bedroom door closing. I sat there in the dark for a long time. The TV was off, but the images of the day played in my head. The burnt toast, the silent car, the blue glow on her face. I thought about the last time we really talked. It was after her mom's funeral 6 months ago. We held each other and cried. Then, slowly we stopped touching. We stopped sharing the small things. The distance grew, without us noticing, like moss on a stone. I got up and checked the front door was locked. I saw her keys on the hall table, next to a photo from our vacation years ago. We looked so young, smiling into the sun. I couldn't remember the last time we smiled like that together. I finally went upstairs. The bedroom door was cracked open. She was asleep, or pretending to be, turned away on her side. I got into bed carefully, trying not to disturb the stillness. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was even and quiet. In the dark, I whispered, "I miss you," so softly that even I barely heard it. There was no response, just the steady sound of her breath, and the vast, empty space in the bed between us. I thought about how easy it would be to roll over and put my arm around her, but the space felt like a wall. I closed my eyes and waited for sleep that didn't come. The clock on the nightstand ticked loudly. I wondered if she was awake too, listening to the same sound, feeling the same distance, and neither of us knowing how to bridge it. The room was dark, and the weight of all the things we hadn't said settled over me like a blanket. I just lay there until the first light of morning began to, around the edges of the curtain. 3 weeks. The laundry was how I noticed she'd stopped wearing my favorite sweater of hers, the big gray cable knit one. I found it, folded it at the very bottom of her drawer when I was putting away her shirts. It looked deliberate, tucked away like a secret. I held it for a moment, the wool soft and familiar, then placed it back where I found it. I didn't mention it. What would I say? I found the sweater you're avoiding. The calendar in the kitchen stilled last month. I flipped it to the right page. The circled date stared back. 17 days now. We had a phone call from my sister that weekend. Sarah handed me one, and as I talked, I watched Sarah water the houseplants. She was meticulous, testing the soil with her finger, wiping dust from each leaf. A kind of tender care I realized she didn't show much else lately. When I hung up, I said, "Jenny sends her love." Sarah just nodded, spraying the fiddle leaf fig. That's nice. But it was like she'd heard a weather report. Mild and inconsequential. The idea came to me at the hardware store, buying light bulbs. I passed the paint samples. I remembered how we painted the guest room together, laughing at the splatters in our hair. We should go away, I said that night over chicken and rice. She looked up, surprised I'd broken the quiet. Go away. For our anniversary, maybe to that cabin lake. Like we used. Put her forty. It's probably booked. I could check, I changed my voice like it was no big deal. She shrugged. If you want. It wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no. It was a void I immediately regretted stepping into. I booked it anyway. A non-refundable deposit, I told her 2 days later. I got the cabin. For the weekend the 14th. We were in the car driving to the supermarket. The turn signal clicked loudly in the silence. "Oh," she said, looking out the window. Then, after a full minute, "Okay." I gripped the wheel tighter. "We don't have to go if you don't want to." "We've paid for it," she said, with a practical finality that crushed me. She was right. It was the kind of waste we couldn't afford now. Our budget was tight, another unspoken strain, so it was settled, not by desire, but by economics. The days dragged. We became polite. "Please pass the salt." "Thank you." It was worse than the silence. One night, I dreamt we were in the lake and the water was thick like honey. And we were trying to swim to each other but couldn't move. I woke up with a start. Sarah was awake, lying perfectly still. I knew she heard me. Neither of us moved or spoke. We just pretended to be asleep in the dock, miles apart. The week before the trip, I took her suitcase down from the top shelf. It was dusty. I wiped it clean and left it open on the bed in the guest room. A question. That evening I saw she'd put a few things inside. A pair of jeans, a book. It felt like a small, painful victory. I packed my bag slowly, wondering what you pack for a trip that feels like a last resort. I included the photo from the hall table, the one from the vacation. I slipped into the side of my bag. A stupid, sentimental. The night before we were to leave, she came home late from work. I was already in bed. I heard her pause by the guest room, then her footsteps continue to our room. She got into bed and lay on her back, staring at the ceiling. "Forecast says it might rain," she said. Her voice was hoarse from disuse. "That's," I whispered. "We can just be there." She didn't answer. After a long time, Her hand shifted on the blanket, pinky finger touching mine. A static, accident point of contact. I held my breath, afraid to move. It stayed there for maybe 10 seconds before she pulled away and turned onto her side. But for those 10 seconds, the wall had a tiny hairline crack in it. And now, in the dark, the hope I felt was terrifying. The cabin was smaller than I remembered, and the lake was gray under a cloudy sky. It did rain, a soft drizzle that tapped on the roof. The first day was awkward. We moved around each other in the cramped space, saying sorry too much. Belbows, built a fire. She made tea. We sat on opposite ends of the sofa, watching the flames. The silence here felt different, though. Not the heavy silence of our house, but a quieter one, filled with the sound of rain and crackling wood. On the second morning, I woke up early. She was already up, heading on the old coat, watching the mist over the water. I made 2 coffees and joined her, handing her a mug. Our fingers brushed. "Thanks," she said, and took a sip. We didn't talk, just drank our coffee and watched the day lighten. Later, I was trying to fix the sticking front door. She came and held it steady for me without me asking. It's been like that for years. A faint, almost nostalgic noise. "I know," I said. "I should have fixed it before." She held the door as I sanded the edge. It was a simple thing, but we were working together, our focus on the same small task. It felt like something. That afternoon, the rain stopped. We went for a walk, the path muddy and slick. At one point, she slipped and I caught her arm instinctively. She righted herself, but didn't pull away immediately. Her hand stayed on my forearm for a few extra seconds. "Thanks," she said again, and this time she met my eyes. There was a flicker there, the ghost of the woman I knew. The last night I couldn't find my bag. I found her in the bedroom, holding the old vacation photo. She'd been looking for something and found it in my side pocket. She looked up, her eyes shiny. "Why did you bring this?" she asked, just wondering. I swallowed. "I don't know. For a reminder, I guess." She looked at the photo, then at me. "We look so happy," she whispered. "We were," I said. "Are we so broken, Mark?" she asked, her voice so it barely reached me. I didn't have a good answer. "I just know I don't want to be." She placed the photo on the dresser and walked over to the window. I thought I'd ruined everything. Then she spoke, her back to me. "I stopped wearing the sweater because it smelled like you. And it hurt too much to put it on. I let that's in the air between us. A confession." I went and stood beside her, touching. We looked out at the dark lake. "I'm sorry," I said. "It wasn't for anything specific and for everything." "Me too," she said. We went to bed. The space between us was still there, but it didn't feel like a wall anymore. It felt like a space we could, maybe, cross. I felt her hand search for mine. I laced my fingers through hers. They were cool. I held them and she squeezed back. We fell asleep like that, hands clasped over the cold sheets. Not fixed, not perfect, but together. And for now, that was enough.